Dr. Randi Williams is a researcher, a scientist, an educator who, she's like nodding all of this stuff. I'm extemporating this. And a really good friend who taught me a lot about AI and learning. She's taught me a lot about life. She's taught me a lot about teaching and taught me a lot about research and how to do science. Randi worked with you all for this curriculum, and she excellently taught so many concepts in art and AI. Randi never ceases to amaze us. And next talk is by Randi Williams.
First, shout out to Matthew Gonzalez for this awesome title. So the exhibit that you all are going to be able to enjoy during lunch, for calling me, myself, and AI. My name is Dr. Randi Williams, as Sabina said. I am Research and Outreach Lead at Day of AI, where, as Cynthia said, we believe that AI is for everyone. However, that only happens if we make it so. Day of AI is a not-for-profit organization which is dedicated to the mission of bringing AI curriculum to students and teachers all over the world, and in this case, to East Boston High, to Brooke High, and we also had a number of students from Cambridge Public Schools join us at the Transforming AI Summit that was hosted by Michael and Donna Dawson. Oh, I told you I was gonna give you a shout out, so don't be surprised, say hello. Wonderful members of our community who are also committed to working with students. This morning, I'm going to share a little bit about the AI and the creative arts curriculum, at least the abridged version that I got to do with students, and why this topic began resonating with me, because I did not consider myself an artist before I met Safina. I was a little bit nervous about my drawing skills, but through her, I realized that being an engineer, you can't be an amazing engineer unless you have more perspectives in mind. And then I'll pass the mic to some of the students to share a bit about that work. So the AI and Creative Arts curriculum, which is one of the many free curriculum available at dayofai.org, is an opportunity for teachers to explore how generative AI works and what AI's role is in the creative arts. Now, I first learned about the topic of generative AI and generative AI images from none other than the very talented Professor Safina Ali. We were both PhD students with the very incredible Professor Cynthia Brazil. But as you all know, Safina is both a talented computer scientist as well as an artist, and so true to form, her first AI lesson involved a creative challenge, which you all will be familiar with. It was to create an AI self-portrait. So when I started out, I wanted to, start simple. So I said, okay, generate an image of someone who's African American, and then I wanted to try and be creative. I was really into like string art and line art, so I said, add some bright colors and string art and line art. And although these are quite lovely images of African-American women, none of them particularly resembled me. So I tried to be more descriptive in my prompts. I said, a Black American woman, and one with the afro, or I guess a puff in this case, one from the United States. And it seemed like no matter what I tried, it still couldn't quite get me. So a known limitation of AI image generators is that they tend to produce stereotypical representations of people and their cultures. For example, you can see some emerging stereotypes here about Black women and the way they style their hair and what their facial features look like. And I was also impressed to see this top right image where you can kind of see like African textiles and patterns coming out. And all I said was line art, and still it would give me all of this. In 2023, Bloomberg did a study of one text-to-image generator. It was called Stable Diffusion. And the headline, as you can see, was that there seemed to be big issues with these tools. So for example, if you put in a prompt like fast food worker or social worker, more often than not, you would get an image of individuals with darker skin tones. If you ask for a doctor, although today about 39% of doctors are women, it would only show doctors around 7% of the time. And so all to say that these tools are visions of the future, but they also seem to want to take us back to the past. At one point, I tried to say, okay, generate a portrait of a woman from the United States with slave ancestry. I was trying to get it to more match my features, and I got this. And while the technologist in me understands why you might want to put safeguards around some of the words that I put in the prompt, the rest of me felt a little bit erased. I felt like maybe these tools can't represent me. And so at this point, I knew that I needed to think outside the box and get creative. And I started thinking about one of my favorite artists. Her name is Bisa Butler, and she creates these gorgeous, larger-than-life quilts, actually. So this is a picture of a quilt, but you can imagine it being soft. And one hallmark of her art style is that rather than doing skin tones and just shades of black or brown, she uses these marvelous, fantastical colors, which for me felt even more realistic because depending on the lighting or what I'm wearing or how I'm feeling that day, I do feel like blackness is not very static. It's actually quite dynamic. And I felt that this work represented that. Her art style comes from a painful yet pivotal moment in her art education, where she describes trying to make a portrait of herself as a younger student, but not having a black crayon available to her. And so her teacher said, well, if you mix all the crayons together, then you'll get black. And so she took a bunch of crayons, was mixing them for hours and hours and hours. And the result that she got in the end, as people looked at it, they were like, well, this is amazing. So with that in mind, I took my metaphorical crayons out of the box and began generating lots and lots of images. So I started thinking about myself as, yes, an African-American woman, but also a daughter and a researcher and an engineer and a Maryland native. And then I brought all of these images together into a single composite image, which resulted in my algorithmically mediated self-portrait. I believe that this self-portrait reflects the importance of what we're celebrating and honoring here today, which is that none of us are just a single identity. We're better represented by a tapestry woven together, and the different perspectives in the room are really what can turn this technology into something great. So certainly in the AI and the creative arts curriculum, students consider, yes, the opportunities, but also the limitations of AI, algorithmic bias, copyright issues, the environmental impact, many of them which we've spoken about already. And I think the reason that is important for every teacher and every student is because the challenges that we face today are complex. They're wicked problems, they're dynamic, they have unique solutions. As soon as you pull on one string, it seems like another thing pops up. And that's the practice that students need in the path forward. Because at the end of the day, to create things that are wonderful and beautiful, it's gonna require all of us, the full universe of what we hold inside of us, our engineering minds, for sure, but also our artistic eyes and a writer's voice. And so through this work, we begin to carve out that space. So with that, I'm going to have our students come up, grab your favorite seat, and take a mic. All right, Damaris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Damaris. Hello, everybody. I am a junior from East Boston High School, and the title I chose for my artwork is Why AI? The idealization that AI brings to the table is personally very disturbing to me as an artist. Well, I call myself an artist, but when I use AI, it doesn't really feel like a good feeling. It creates like a pit in my stomach that I can't quite explain. When you generate an image, it doesn't try its best to correct its mistakes. It can give other teens like a feeling of envy to look like one of the portraits that they generate. The idealization between each and every form that you type in is the same face, the same eyes. I will always look forward to traditional artists and supporting them. However, the widespread use of AI and how pronounced it has become is slowly starting to damage the minds of artists these days. But having said all of that, I don't believe that AI is entirely evil. It can be used to bring ideas to authors, to writers, to creators. It gives them ideas. Perhaps if a writer is in writer's block and they need at least a little bit of something to help them, it's a tool to use.
Nice. Thank you, Damar. I appreciate the reflection on the psychological impact of AI.
My name is Kaiki Dos Santos. I'm a junior from East Boston High School. I decided to call my work Muse in the Machine. Creating a self-portrait was quite difficult for me. My hair appeared in many different shapes and sizes. However, it was fun exploring the different options, and explaining myself to a computer was interesting. What really stood out to me was how cool that AI can interpret my words and create something that looks similar to me. Thank you.
So I'm Lucibel Perez. I'm a sophomore at Brooke High School, and I've been drawing for over almost 12 years now. And this is my portrait. It's called an ambivalent portrait. As you can tell, I didn't really use AI at all. So when I initially heard of this program, I thought it was going to be like a debate-based program where one side says, oh, why AI is bad, why AI is good. I didn't think it was going to be more of this homogenous conversation, which actually I think is more nuanced than like most debates about AI and art. And when I realized I had to make a portrait about AI, I couldn't see myself to do that because I did multiple researches talking about like the environmental impacts. There have been numerous studies and an approximate estimation that in 2026, AI data centers are going to produce the same level of carbon dioxide as the country of Belgium, which is honestly kind of scary. I would recommend that you all do your own research because a lot of people need to be more aware of like other issues that AI poses apart from humanities and psychological issues. I just can't take myself to use AI like that. So the picture here, I just tried to mimic the feeling I have with using AI, the sort of like, kind of like haze of like, this haze of like feeling uncomfortable and slightly off. Like I took a long, hard look at myself in the mirror, obviously, because I had to make this picture. And I realized that I kind of decided to just make my features look more melted, I decided to take out my flaws a lot more. This is very different to what I usually have. I usually have very colorful, very aesthetically pleasing art that tries to make everything look pretty. So trying to make myself look intentionally quote unquote ugly was actually pretty hard. And I actually did have to look at some already generated AI, like to look at that. I simply just looked at my peers' drawings, like my peers' art from like AI to just simply go off of that. But yeah, I'm just glad to just be able to share like the impacts. And I do believe that our AI can work with some things. I just feel like in the current state of the world, we shouldn't explore that until we're sure that we have at least some sort of like cover, like in case like AI does something like hurt the environment that much.
Thank you all so much for your reflections on, wait, don't move yet. I got a question for you. So why don't we start with Lucibel and go down? What is one thing that every high schooler should get to learn about AI?
I feel like a lot of people demonize AI and like people who use AI like, oh, they're so lazy, oh, is that. When in reality, a lot of times people resort to AI is that they're scared. They're scared of feeling like they failed at like something. Like I remember one time I almost used AI. I think it was like around 9th grade. It was an essay. I was about to scrap it because I thought, oh, this is probably stupid. This is stupid. Everyone else probably didn't do it. When in reality, I was just feeling desperate because I just felt pressured by everyone. So even if you need a little help, like even if you use AI or not, I feel like just high schoolers using AI, just note that like if you do use AI, just be open about like telling people to use AI. Don't lie about that because at the end of the day, it's okay to need help sometimes.
What I think high schoolers should know about AI is that it's not like a creative thing. It's like it's like multiple ideas from the internet that they get and put together. It's not something that like it creates on its own. And people think it might be creative because they've never seen it before themselves, but like really not. Thank you.
In many cases, I see that high schoolers, especially teens, rely on AI consistently. And even in fact, if you were to take AI away from students and put them in the room and give them like an assignment to do, whether it be writing, whether it be math, at least half of them might not even complete it because we are so reliant on the usage of AI these days that we can't even think for ourselves, I feel like.
Awesome. All right, thank you three. But now I get to bring up, I was smiling at her because I get to introduce her now. I will bring up Professor Safina Ali, who is not only my lab mate, but my roommate and my birthday twin. And I will say someone who just thinks so deeply about the world and what we can create with it and how we might inspire others to create as you've inspired me. Safina.